A pleasant day to everyone. We start this week's discussion learning about the cuisine of North America. And the first up would be Canada. Geographically, where can we find Canada? We check the exact location of Canada. So that is the Philippines, and here, okay, the one highlighted in red is Canada. And this one, the country below it, is the United States. So this now is the political map of Canada. So it is divided into different provinces. All right. So let's have an overview of the whole country. Canada is considered the second largest landmass of any country in the world. Approximately, it is 5.6 million square miles, or almost 10 million square kilometers. So just to give you a perspective of how big Canada is, in comparison to the Philippines, we have 300,000 square kilometers, and Canada has 10 million square kilometers. That means that Canada is 33 times bigger than the Philippines. The climatic and geographic variety is as vast as the land itself because it is composed of mountainous terrain. It is also composed of great plains, 3 sea coasts, fruitful valleys, and the northern tundra. Canada is influenced by the British and French tradition. Canada has 3 indigenous people. So namely, they are the First Nations. They are considered the Native Americans or the Native Canadians, the Inuit, or formerly referred to as Eskimos, and the Métis, those of mixed heritage and now accorded Aboriginal status with a distinct culture. And Canada, in terms of the crops that they can produce, is number 1 producer of mixed grains, linseed, canola, and oats. And they are the second producer of blueberries, mustard seed, and cranberries. This one is blueberry, and this one is cranberry. Here are the 6 regions of Canada. Sorry, that's 5. British Columbia. You have the prairies. You have Ontario and Quebec. You have the Atlantic provinces and the Northern Territory. So in this discussion, Canada is divided into 5 regions when it comes to their food variety and cuisine. Okay, let's first discuss British Columbia. So British Columbia is here. So it is along the Pacific Ocean. This one is the Pacific Ocean. So here onwards is the Pacific Ocean. Let's start with British Columbia. So British Columbia is very famous for this food item, and this one is a salmon. Alright, so salmon is very famous in British Columbia because they are located along the Pacific Ocean. So a salmon is a staple, is considered a staple in British Columbia. There are 2 types of salmon. The first one is the Pacific salmon, and the second one is the Atlantic salmon. Here is a photo of the different types of salmon in North America. So the Pacific salmon is composed of 5 species. So what are these 5 species? So here are the 5 species of a Pacific salmon. So you have Chinook, the coho, the sockeye, the pink salmon, and the chum. While an Atlantic salmon has 1 species that is consumed. So this 5 species of Pacific salmon is very widespread along North America, specifically along the Pacific coast. And among these 5 types of Pacific salmon, the Chinook is considered the king of salmon. Why? Because it is the biggest. The smallest is the pink salmon. The tastiest, or the most coveted because of its taste, because of its flavor, is the sockeye salmon. Now, the least preferred salmon is the chum, because the meat is not as tasty, but the chum is very famous because they have the tastiest roe, or the tastiest salmon eggs. Alright? So the difference would be this one, on your left are the salmon during their maturity and while they are still venturing out in the ocean, but they transform in color once they are ready to spawn. So they transform into red and maroon color, and that signifies that they are already spawning, meaning they are ready to lay their eggs, and then the male salmon will fertilize those eggs. They will be laying their eggs on the very same river that they were born. So meaning, when they ventured out in the ocean, once they are mature enough and ready for spawning, they will find their way up into the river where they were born. So they will be using all their strength to find that river, and once they are already in that river, their energy is already exhausted. The female will be laying their eggs, the male will be fertilizing the eggs, and then afterwards, because they have already consumed all their energy, they will now die on that river. And the Atlantic salmon also is found in North America, but they are in the Atlantic Ocean. So those are some interesting information about the famous fish in North America, which is salmon. This is the difference of the meat of a wild caught salmon. Here it is. And a farmed salmon. A farmed salmon is usually grown and cultivated in fish pens. Okay? And it's usually in Lake Ontario, where they are farming this salmon on fish pens. So this one, a wild-caught salmon, okay, they have differences. A wild-caught salmon has fewer in calories, okay, lesser in calories. They have more protein, and they are pinkish in color, while a farmed salmon, on the other hand, has higher calories, less protein, and it has more fat. Now let's go to the prairies. So the prairies are the plains or the flatlands of Canada. So the prairies is composed of Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba. So these are the largest plains in Canada. The prairie region is also called Canada's breadbasket because this is where the crops are mostly grown in Canada. The grassland supports the cultivation of grains, oilseed, and wheat, as well as cattle raising. And because of these vast farmlands, Canada is considered the world's largest producer and exporter of canola oil. So this one is one of the famous produce of Canada, and that is canola oil. So you are very familiar with canola oil because we use it in our kitchen. Alright, and another trivia is the word canola is actually patented Alright, so the word canola is coming from a combination of the following words. Can, that is Canadian. O is oil, so Canadian oil. And then LA, that is low acid. So that is Canadian oil, low acid. So that is the meaning, or that is where the word canola was derived. Now let's go to Ontario and Quebec, right? So this is composed of the two provinces. Ontario, this one is Ontario, and this one is Quebec. So these two provinces is found in the eastern part of Canada. So Ontario and Quebec is famous for game hunting. So people, because they have such primitive roots, some of them are still hunting. So they hunt deer, moose, ducks, and geese. So this one is actually a moose. So it's one big animal. So they do it for hunting, and the meat, okay, they get the meat for food. Alright, but before you'll be able to do hunting in Canada, you must have your hunting license and permit. Next, the Niagara Peninsula is famous for fruits such as plums, pears, peaches, apples, and grapes. And ice wine, on the other hand, is a famous Canadian alcoholic beverage. And this probably is one of the most iconic products of Canada, and that is maple syrup. Maple syrup is really one of the most iconic produce of Canada. And as you can see, the maple leaf is in their flag. So that's how important and significant the maple leaf is in Canada, because they are the biggest producer of maple syrup. So maple syrup is grown and produced primarily in the Quebec province. And then we go to the Atlantic provinces. So the Atlantic provinces, of course, is located in the Atlantic Ocean. And because they're located in the Atlantic Ocean, again, their famous food items are fish and seafood. So lobster is really famous in the Atlantic provinces. So that is where the famous lobster is coming from. In Canada, it's already regulated for sustainability. And on the other hand, you have the codfish here, which is also a famous seafood item in the Atlantic provinces. And then the last would be the Northern Territories. So the Northern Territories is composed of the three: Yukon, Northwest, and Nunavut. So the traditional farming is considered a challenge in Northern Canada. Why? Because Northern Canada is where the most extreme climate is found because of their location. You could not really grow a majority of what is grown in the prairie region. And the growing season is short or sometimes absent if winter is really very long. However, some people grow grains, berries, and vegetables using greenhouses. And I have one question. What do you call this famous delicacy made of salmon? So what do you call this delicacy which is famous in Japan? So please comment down your answers in the comment box. So that would be the end of this discussion. So I hope to see you again on the next learning session. So have a good day and stay safe.